Thank you, Patrick.
We are the Mental Health Matters Strategy Group. Our mission is to improve mental health outcomes for the seafood industry. This relates closely to our Cohort's vision and mission to connect Australia's seafood communities with future generations. My name is Kylie Tonin, and I work at the Department of Environment and Energy. In my role, I work closely with members of the International Whaling Commission and others to protect whales from commercial fishing and other environmental threats. Before this, I spent 10 years working on various international and domestic fisheries issues at the Department of Agriculture and the Australian Fisheries Management Authority. I was motivated to join the National Seafood Industry Leadership Program Mental Health Matters Group, as I recently found out that my grandfather, a typical Aussie farmer, had suffered severe depression, and I was shocked at how this significant issue wasn't raised until after he passed away. If through our project we could help one family in the seafood industry to better manage and talk about mental health issues before it's too late, then it's worth it. Today our presentation will cover our leadership journey as a team, a personal story from Jodie, facts and stats, existing programs and key findings, our strategy, and what next. So I'm going to talk through our leadership journey by outlining some of the things that we've learned through the course so far and how our group used these leadership learnings throughout our project. First lesson, resilience and adaptability. Good leaders realise that not everything will go to plan all the time and must have strong resilience and ability to adapt their plan if things go wrong. Fishers can be some of the most resilient people and effectively deal with traditional fishing risks, such as the dangers of fishing and being out at sea for long periods of time. But research has shown that fishers are less equipped to deal with the modern uncertainties, such as changes to catch limits, legislation, and implementation of marine protected areas. Our group experienced some setbacks with our project, but instead of bickering and falling in a heap, we demonstrated strong resilience and came together, picked each other up, and adapted our approach. Communication and relationships. Throughout this course, we have consistently heard that building strong relationships and maintaining communication is vitally important for effective leadership. We also understand that strong communication and relationships are important for maintaining good mental health, including for the seafood industry. Our group maintained communication with each other throughout the project through regular emails, phone calls, and video conferences. We actively established networks with a range of industry bodies, service providers, fishers, and people on the front line, and amended our communication styles to ensure we're most effective in seeking information about mental health in the industry. The third lesson we have is using the right bait. Great leaders know their people and what motivates them. That is, using the right bait to ensure that they are most effective. Noting the general bravado culture in the seafood industry, our project research mostly focused on working out what the right bait was to encourage fishers to seek help. We also learned our team's different motivations for wanting to improve mental health outcomes for the seafood industry and what each of us needed to be effective, and use these motivations to get the best of our team. I will now hand over to Jodie, who will continue the conversation.
Hi, I'm Jodie Floyd and I'm from NQ Trawling. So NQ Trawling operates on the Queensland East Coast and into the Torres Strait, trawling for wild-caught prawns, bugs and scallops within their various seasons. My partner Neil has skippered his family's trawler for the last 20 years, and currently Neil and I are in the process of buying a family business. The Department of Agriculture and Fisheries is implementing major reforms across Queensland in all their management areas. A number of fishers, particularly small-run family businesses, will be impacted by this change, with zone implementation, quota allocation, and some licence availability causing stress amongst the industry. Improvements to safety features on vessels is also a concern to the industry. The majority of vessels in the otter trawl fishery, which operates on the east coast of northern Australia, are of significant age and are not fully compliant to the latest Australian Maritime Safety Authority standards. I have experienced the frustration in endeavouring to improve safety on an ageing vessel, which has been hampered by those regulations, and the significant financial cost to meet those standards. This is a common theme amongst fishers. In 2017, I had the opportunity to attend Seafood Directions and attended a presentation by Dr. Tanya Kim. She highlighted the levels of emotional distress in fishers, and this led me to hearing a first-hand account of a fisher who tried to take his own life at sea and was found by his crew, and the impact that this had not only on his family, but his crew members' family. This has been a driver for me to be involved in the Mental Health Matters team and develop our mission and vision, and to provide focus on the need for an industry-specific mental health assistance program. Each of the Mental Health Matters team has been impacted by this issue in their respective areas. I'm going to hand over to Patty Cool to continue the conversation.
Thanks, Jodie. So my name is Patty Cool. I'm from Darwin, where I work as a policy officer with the Northern Territory Government Fisheries Department. My background's primarily in the challenging world of fisheries management, where I've worked on several of the Territory's key inshore fisheries, including the mud crab, barramundi and inshore reef fisheries. I'm currently working in the Aboriginal Policy and Engagement team, where we're working hard to increase Aboriginal participation in the commercial fishing industry. I chose to be part of the Mental Health Matters strategy group because of personal experience with and a general interest in the issue. Disturbingly, recent research has shown that Australia's commercial fishers are suffering almost 50% more psychological distress than the general public. The main reasons for this include chronic livelihood insecurity, continued threats to resource access, isolation, and changing fisheries policy and regulation. Also, 39% of fishers feel their GP doesn't understand the pressures of the fishing industry. Several projects and initiatives are currently underway in an effort to address this issue for the seafood industry. The Sustainable Fishing Families Project conducted the first national survey of the health, safety and wellbeing of the Australian fishing community in 2017. This was the important work that highlighted the prevalence of mental health issues in professional fishers. The project also conducted a successful pilot program tailored to address the health issues and needs of fishing families. Significantly, 100% of participants in the pilot program said they would recommend the program to other fishing families. This is significant because the program is now available for use across the country, subject to funding. Project Regard is a multi-stage program of research and support being driven by Women in Seafood Australasia. The key aims of the project include raising awareness and engaging fishers in productive discussion of poor mental health. The project is currently working towards training industry ambassadors in mental health first aid and developing specific guidelines for the fishing industry to help service providers address its specific challenges. Stay Afloat is a partnership between the Tasmanian Seafood Industry Council and Rural Alive and Well to deliver on-the-ground mental health support for seafood operators. The campaign also aims to raise awareness and develop industry-specific resources that encourage fishers to look out for each other and seek further support if needed. Stay Afloat is looking to expand nationally and has approached the Australian Government for funding for this purpose. The Australian Government is investing almost $340 million over the next 4 years in a broad range of mental health initiatives. Measures relevant to the seafood industry include money for the Royal Flying Doctor Service to enhance its mental outreach services, almost $5 million for improved digital mental health services, and significantly $600,000 to support a mental health advocate program for the fisheries sector. Our strategy group proposes that while there's an obvious commitment to making the mental health of our country a top priority, the financial resources needed to make a positive impact in the seafood industry could be relatively modest if a grassroots approach is taken. And I'll now pass over to Louise to continue the conversation.
My name is Louise Morrison and I am responsible for people and culture at Sydney Fish Market. In my role as HR manager, I have always taken a keen interest in people's well-being and mindfulness. This interest led me to become an accredited mental health first aid officer, which has provided me with the confidence to have a conversation that could change a life and the right first aid skills that can support someone experiencing a mental health crisis. With these foundations and the skills gained through the National Seafood Industry Leadership Program, I am well placed to be a leader in mental health matters space. During the research stage of our project, we wanted to gain an understanding of the existing support services available in the broader community and identify potential organisations we could engage in. Through desk-based research, email correspondence and telephone conversations, we came up with a short list which included those shown on the screen. The not-for-profit organisation, Are You OK?, was a good starting point, as we were aware that a set of online resources could be customised for workplaces and communities to encourage people working in a common industry to better support each other during life's tough times. The motor industry, construction and hospitality industries were examples of where organisations were able to make a difference. One idea we had was by potentially collaborating with the RURK organisation, we could develop flyers, stickers or pamphlets specifically targeting mental health awareness at the grassroots of the seafood industry. We took into account learnings from the Sustainable Fishing Family Program developed and delivered by the National Centre for Farmer Health at the Western District Health Service in Victoria. This program was able to successfully break down the barriers for fishers who sought help to address poor mental and physical health and could easily be replicated across the country. Whilst working at the Sydney Fish Market, many discussions were had with the local fishing fleet, where it became apparent that the culture of the fishermen was one of bravado, whereby they do not like to admit or show that they are suffering. There are many pressures of commercial fishing, including isolation, the difficulty while out at sea of maintaining stable relationships at home, constantly changing economic and environmental conditions, which all contribute to a high rate of substance abuse, mental health issues and suicide. From our research, it was evident that there were many good initiatives available to the community. However, isolation is a key factor for many wild-caught fishers, who are often working in remote environments without easy access to communication equipment. It's not easy to pick up the phone and call a support service. Many fishers don't want to reach out to services like Beyond Blue or Lifeline because the person on the end of the telephone, quote, doesn't understand what I'm facing. They are more comfortable talking to like-minded people who understand the specific industry concerns and pressures. In some cases, fishers are not aware of, informed or confident to start a conversation or ask the right questions. Some fishers don't actually identify that they might be struggling with mental health issues. We need to break down the stigma and let them know it is okay to ask for help. I'll now pass on to Elena to continue.
Thanks, Louise. My name is Elena and I work for RecFish West, the peak body for recreational fishing in WA, as an operations officer. I'm a passionate female recreational fisher with a keen interest in the mental health industry. I became interested in the mental health industry due to my own personal experiences as a teen, where I found myself turning to recreational fishing to help me deal with these issues. The effects that rec fishing had on me was really profound, and I now feel so fortunate to have learned about the acts of mindfulness, meditation, and the benefits that simply just being outdoors can bring to oneself. I now work within the rec fishing industry, of which I'm so passionate about, where I can help others reap the benefits that fishing brings through a statewide Sunsmart fishing clinic program that I coordinate for troubled youth, reformed prisoners and community groups. Also, via our events, such as the Purple Fly Fishing Program, which supports women living with breast cancer for meaningful and supporting relationships through the act of fly fishing, which is proven to have significant social, emotional and physical mental benefits. So, to follow on from Louise, with the upcoming election in May, we felt as a group we now had an opportunity to bring the issue of mental health within the seafood industry to the forefront, and at the time was now. So it was evident that there's a lot of programs out there already, but they just needed funding, and we didn't want to start something new and muddy the waters, but instead try and get support behind these existing programs and raise the profile further. Therefore, we would initiate a call to arms. We thought we could leverage our diverse contacts within the industry, our existing ones, and then the new ones we've recently formed, to reach a broad range of stakeholders and raise it at a higher level, and therefore secure funding to assist existing projects such as the Sustainable Fishing Families Initiative, or to continue on with Project Regard's Ambassador Program. Some of these initiatives were asking as little as 10 grand to help fund the next action plan. So we decided we would create a petition and send it out to industry. We could create a pro forma letter explaining the state of the mental health within the seafood industry, outlining programs available, their funding requirements, with our recommendation that industry support these fantastic initiatives. With the support of the industry, we would then have a fantastic case to go to government and lobby for funding for mental health initiatives that are directed primarily at the seafood industry. So we approached Seafood Industry Australia to assist us to help. However, it seems like great minds think alike. The Seafood Industry Australia beat us to the punch. So perhaps a shortfall for us, but it was a step in the right direction for the industry by undertaking their own lobbying. So Seafood Industry Australia's lobbying resulted in the election promise of 600,000 that Paddy mentioned earlier. So as a group, this was a minor setback. We temporarily lost our way because we thought we were kicking goals, and now we weren't. So we then knew that we had to utilise the skills that we've been learning throughout this course. The 4 fundamental principles were communication, resilience, adaptability and strategic thinking. So then we could then formulate a new plan. And what we realised after getting the group back together again, we realised we needed to focus on the core theme that we've been hearing all along from the people within the industry. That fishers just want to talk to somebody that understands the pressures they are facing. Now I'll hand over to Mike to continue the conversation.
Thanks, Alana. Mike Harrison. Up until recently, so for the last 8 years, I've lived in remote South Australia working in the aquaculture industry, and just a couple of months ago I took a job in Perth and moved over there to work for the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development as the aquaculture production coordinator. So, as you can probably see from the photos up there, while my chosen profession might be aquaculture, my passion's for all things seafood and family. Sorry about the camping one, but who doesn't have a handy? So anyway, as you heard from Alana, we were suffering a bit of a setback, so what did? We started networking. So at the industry dinner for the second residential, we had some pivotal conversations, one with Karen Holder from Women in Seafood Australasia, and one with Trisha Beattie from from the Professional Fishermen's Association in New South Wales. So from that, we decided that we needed to support some of those on the front line, those who are interacting with the people working in the industry on a daily basis. Now, the Drought and Wellbeing Service, run by the Rural Flying Doctors Service, trains all of its frontline staff to recognise and deal with mental illness. Why couldn't we do the same? Why couldn't we give those working on the front line in the seafood community the skills and tools they needed to have that conversation, to broach the subject, and maybe even point somebody in the right direction before their problems became unmanageable? So we went back. We went to the phones, we went to the emails, everything we had at our disposal, and we contacted every seafood industry association we could think of. And then we thought, who else deals with fishers on a daily basis? It's the co-ops. So we called as many of them as we could as well. Emails, phone conversations. We wanted to know if any of them saw a value in mental health first aid training for members of their organisation. The responses weren't always very positive. Some of them were downright angry, some of them were abusive. A lot of them saw the government as putting the onus back onto them, take responsibility for problems the government had created in the first place. And this is a perception we're going to have to deal with as we roll out our plan. That's okay though. We know that there's no one size fits all, and we know that there's not going to be any easy fix when it comes to mental health. We did also get some positive responses. Some of them thought it was a great idea. Now, many of these organisations though have very limited resources, they've got very limited funding, and they don't have a budget for staff training. As many of you will know, working in these associations, and as the member for Grey, Mr. Ron Ramsey pointed out to us the other day, giving your time to these associations to lead and assist your industry, it's often at the cost of your own business. So what do we actually want to do? We plan to create a funding pool, administered at a national level, that any of these frontline organisations can access, whether it be PFA, whether it be the Yamba Co-op, a recreational or Indigenous fishing organisation, or an aquaculture body. They can apply to this national pool for training funding and mental health first aid. So what would this cost the industry? For as little as $350 per person, you can go and get mental health first aid training. For $3,500, somebody in a more remote area, somebody working for a larger organisation, can do a train-the-trainer course. They can go back to their community and they can train others in mental health first aid. So what's that look like? From a quick little bit of research the other day, I found, what do you got there, 45, nearly 60 organisations that could access this pool. There's a lot more. A lot of those are just the bigger organisations. If only 50 of those access the scheme to train somebody in mental health first aid training, that would cost less than 20 grand. Imagine the reach we could have. For less than $100,000, we could train nearly 300 people in mental health first aid. Imagine what we could do with that many people out there trained to deal with this issue. So what's the cost of not doing anything? The National Mental Health Commission has estimated that the cost of mental illness across the Australian economy is over $60 billion a year. And every year, 8 million days of work are lost to mental illness. In an industry that's suffering nearly double the average levels of mental illness, that's a huge cost to our industry. Now, last week was Are You OK Day and the National Suicide Prevention Day. How do you put a value on the loss of a family member to suicide? You just can't. So I'd like to pass back to Jody to continue the conversation.
The federal government made an election commitment to provide funds to address mental health in the seafood industry. The Department of Agriculture will work with the Department of Health to administer this fund. The mental health management team is committed to working with the department to ensure these funds are rolled out within the next 6 months. In seafood, it's our community and it's our future. Thank you.